Assalamu alaikum. I'm Yaaseen Barnes, and this is a Muslims Connected podcast. Podcast for those looking for guidance and enlightenment. Oh, my word is mixed up today. Today we are joined by Dr. Rafiq Lockhat, clinical psychologist. Such a big title.
Just call me Rafiq. Simple, easy.
So mental health is now a hot topic of the world, and you've been championing it for most of your life also. Becoming a psychologist is something that's very weighted in terms of looking after others and giving yourself for others. When did all of this start? When did the drive to go, I want to help others, when did that initially begin?
It was a complete accident. But I mean, we're Muslims, so we don't believe in accidents. But in my case, so I matriculated in 1980. I'm sure most of you in this room wasn't born then. And so, of course, those days, public schools, with good quality schools, but there was no guidance. In those days, if you were in A class, B class, C class, then that's all you did. And also, you couldn't just go to varsity because I lived in Pietermaritzburg, and even though there's a university, like basically 10 minutes, you had to apply for a ministerial permit because that was a white university.
Yeah.
And then there was a colored university in Cape Town, and then the Indian University at Durban Westville, and then the Black University at Fort Napier. Right, so you couldn't, like now when I tell my daughters these stories, they look at me like I'm telling fairy tales. Right? But you couldn't just apply. So because I was wrong, wasn't white, you couldn't go to a university. You had to apply to the Minister of Education and give a reason why you couldn't go to your university. So I'm not going to go to Durban. It's like hours, hour away. So those days, most people gave either a health reason, or you gave a reason that certain subjects you want to study, you couldn't do it at your university. So I gave a health reason, which wasn't true, but it worked. I said, I'm asthmatic. If I go to Durban, I'll die. So they said, okay, you can go here. But without the guidance, so nowadays, most people did medicine, accounting, dentistry, pharmacy, teaching.
Yeah.
But that was it. Right? There was no other careers that we would think. Or you joined the family business. My father had a business. I was not keen to do that. I'm hopeless at business. Wasn't where my passion lied. And so if you were in the A class, then you went to varsity to do a BSc. Or you went to do medicine. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I went to varsity and I signed up for that BSc. But university was a very interesting thing because there was about 14 people of color and 4,000 white students.
Wow.
So it was a bit of and apartheid, everything was separate. So it was a bit of a culture, like shock. And also just the freedom.
Yeah.
That was a bit hard to handle, that you're not sitting in a class and they don't say to you, listen, there's a test tomorrow, make sure you study. They just put a notice up. And we just, first it was a bit like overwhelming.
I'm laughing at that only because I went to university, didn't finish, only because it was too much freedom for me to handle. So I know that.
I know that feeling. Right? And we're just getting used to the cultural, and there was a lot of racism still on the campus. A lot of racism. Interesting, not from the local people, but from those who had just come from those days. It was called Rhodesia, so Zimbabwe. War had finished, guys had come to the campus, they were very angry, a lot of racist people, they were huge people also. And look at me, I'm a big guy. And, so it was interesting, tough, challenging. So all of that really distracted me. And also I wasn't enjoying the courses, and I just not enjoying it. And to cut a long story short, I didn't do well in my first year. I failed basically. And I tell people, don't stress. Okay, I was scared for my father. So my mother hid my results for me for 3 weeks so I could go on holiday. And when I come back, he'd calm down. But all my friends failed as well. Because again, we were just lost, not sure what we wanted to do. And then by the end of the first year, we then, okay, seriously, what are you going to do with your life? And someone said, here, just read this book. Okay, so it was a psychology book. It was a first year textbook. And I was blown away with all these amazing things. I'd never seen these kinds of experiments. And I had an aptitude. People used to come to me to tell me their problems. But we didn't. Firstly, there were no Muslim psychologists in Pietermaritzburg. Yeah. And I think in 1980, probably nobody in Durban either. They were white psychologists all over the place. It was still a very restricted course. So, and also people wouldn't, if you open a practice in 1980, no one will come to you.
Yeah.
Like Malman said. In fact, when I said, so Dad, so I read the book and I loved the textbook. Things began to pop open in my brain, all these fantastic experiments they're doing in people. I didn't even know this thing existed. Of course, no internet, so you can't go on the internet and do research. So now you go to a library, sit there, and that there's an old thing called a microfiche. No one knows what that is, but it helped you to find the books in the library. And I thought, this is a really good subject. So I speak to my father, and he says, what is that? So I say, no, you work with people, man. You want to work with mad people. He said, come with me. Goes in the car, it takes me to a place called Fort Napier in Pietermaritzburg, which is a very famous psychiatric hospital. In those days, if you wanted to scare your children, you took them there and you let them stand by the fence and watch all the psychotic people. And then you'd say, if you don't behave, you'll become like that. So of course, children got scared, and you say, okay, I'll behave.
So it's a strong tactic to use as a parent, though, but effective.
Effective, but also ignorant.
Yeah.
And you got to understand the time, 1980, no internet, no nothing, no people in the community. So he said, you want to work with that? So I said, yeah. I said, I'm very interested. So he just looked at me and he said, no, I must come talk to you. So he phones around all his family and friends. No one knows of anyone called a clinical psychologist. So he said, you want to do a career that nobody's heard of?
Wow. Also, it's not only a career that no one knows, but also a career that seems almost like whimsical, because you're speaking about feelings. And I feel like firstly, that time in the world, and then also as Muslim people and brown people of South Africa, those are jobs that they don't know that you can earn from it, but don't know the importance of it also. How do you convince them?
So it was a hard sell. So I said, look, there are white people doing it. He said, yeah, that's them. For us, he said, we don't do these things. Firstly, we don't talk about secrets, keep it in the family. So I said, no. He said, look, it's going to come. Anyway, my mother convinced him, my uncle spoke to him, and he kind of agreed. So I remember now I didn't do well the year before. Now I'm doing a new course, But if you like a subject, you will study it for fun. And I did. And I really liked it. So I did really well. I got really good marks. Because now this was this amazing thing to study. I also studied English as a second degree because I thought, well, I want to lecture in English. I was a bit odd. I liked Shakespeare, which was quite strange. My friends couldn't understand that. I don't tell them about Shakespeare. They're like, what's wrong with you? Like, who studies Shakespeare? And poetry, I liked all that. It's quite odd. Anyway, long story short, I then did my degree, and then I applied for honours, and then they accepted me into the honours course. It was really tough to get in. It's apparently still tough. Got into the honours course, and at the end of your honours year, you have to do like an honours thesis. Okay, and people look for topics. Most people just want to get it done and pass. But I did it on GBV in a particular community in Pietermaritzburg, which was a really eye-opener for me.
Also very forward-thinking again at the time.
I didn't see it as forward-thinking. I just had an interest in why is this happening in this particular community. It shouldn't be happening. And so when I applied to do the masters, I wasn't the best student. There were students who were far brighter than me, like marks-wise. I wasn't the worst. I wasn't dumb, but I wasn't the brightest. And so that master's course is very competitive. You apply your academic, you need the minimum academic standard, and then they interview you. And they only take 7 people at that time. The reason for that is because there are only 7 internship places in the hospital. Okay, so after honors you do masters and then an internship. And I applied, and I think what helped me is the fact that all my colleagues or other students were doing experiments on rats, and I did what they thought was a meaningful topic. And so I think that helped me a lot. And at the interview, I seemed to have impressed them, and then I got accepted into the master's course. So and again, I was the only person of color. And so there were six white people and me.
And then how were your parents at that point in your...
By that time, my
Because you
father
also
was
studying
coming.
for long.
Yeah, well, it was time much sixth year.
Yeah.
My father, because I'd come home and I'd tell him about the stuff, and then he was like, he still didn't see how I was going to earn a living from this. He didn't understand who would come to me, who would actually pay me to do this. So he didn't understand that. He still thought that I should come work for him. And they'd say one day, he said to me one day, how much are you going to earn? He said, I'll pay you 3 times that. Come work for me. I said, Dad, no, I'm not cut out for that. So, of course, by then, I was into it. I was interested. And then my internship was fantastic. Started actually working now with real people with difficulty. I began to really enjoy it. It was still challenging because hospitals were still racially segregated. So in Maritzburg, you have Town Hill Hospital, which is for white people, or was. And then Fort Napier for the rest. And then you get Northdale Hospital for Indians and Coloreds. Then Etondale Hospital for Africans. And then there was Gray's Hospital for white people. So the hospitals were still racially segregated. Staff were segregated. But it so happened that they were starting the integration in 1987, which was my internship year. And I remember they said, okay, that I was going to be the first intern to go to the white side. And it was very stressful. I remember my boss and other colleagues came and they said, listen, please don't let us down, you're going that side. I was like an intern. I don't even know how to wash my bum properly still. And I'm on this pressure now, to be like the representative of everybody of color.
And you early 20s?
Early 20s, so born in 62, so 87, what would have been? 87.
You're asking me to do maths now.
He's a young man, yeah. What's 62? No,
oh, they have Google.
About 24, 25, yeah. So
it's a big responsibility to take on, I'll say at that age.
Yeah. So, but, and so I went across to the white side and it was fine. The white patients were fine. I thought they didn't give me a hard time, why are you here? Staff were great. And then they started the integration of now moving like black and Indian and colored nurses this side and moving them that way. So I think it was the right time. And then I was done. I qualified so end of 87, my internship finished. Those days there wasn't community. Now there's an extra year called community service. They didn't have that year. And then they offered me a job.
Mark, just before we get into the job, you also, I'll say you go from a student to listening to actual people. So it's not like a theory course, you're sitting and listening to actual people and their problems. How do you firstly deal with that? Because you're also seeing the worst of people and what they've gone through. You're also seeing that there is hope in people, but how do you not take that feeling? I always wonder with psychologists, because you're hearing other people's problems the entire day. How do you go home and go, I'm fine?
I suppose that's part of the training. And that's why the selection is so intense. So at that time, of course, I don't know what they're looking for in people, but they obviously know what they're looking for. They're choosing a particular kind of person that can handle it. I mean, I later on, when I became a lecturer and I was doing selections, we'd come to that. And but at that time, I don't know what they're looking for. They just ask you lots of questions, and you go to different interviews, you do role plays, you do psychometrics, some testing, and then they let you know that you're selected or not selected. So, that time about 300 people applied. Wow. For 7 places. So I was always very grateful to the Almighty that somehow I got in from this accidental start and then actually saw it through to the end and then got accepted as being the only person of color. That was challenging as well. I think by then I'd settled in. I was okay.
You knew who you were.
I knew my worth, and I was intimidated by some of the really bright people, who could just talk and give answers, and I was just getting there. Because our schooling was different. Yeah. If you go to like those days private white schools, you're encouraged to give opinions, say what you think. Our schools, that would be disrespect.
Yeah.
So that was challenging.
I think that's also a problem that students find going to university, is that when you come from I'll say previously black or colored school, you're very much taught to hold your opinion and hold yourself. So because I remember going to university and the white kids, they could always just like, yo, we're ready to go. They were there for the answers. Then I just hold myself back. And then, yeah, so that thing
Now
is...
go back, 1980, very,
imagine.
very, very different world.
Yeah.
So then they offered me a job and I accepted for a while, but then I think, hang on, I can't stay here because I'm not going to learn anything. I've worked here, I did my internship, now I'm working, I'm now expected to teach other people, but there's a big world out there. Your knowledge is not, and looking to expand my knowledge. So I meet a wonderful man at a conference called Dr. George Savage. People might know him in Cape Town. He was head of Lentegeur Hospital Psychiatric Unit. They had just opened Lentegeur. The superintendent was Dr. Fuad Khamildin, the man used to walk with a limp, amazing man. I'd heard about this hospital. I'd heard it was brand new. They just opened it in Mitchell's Lentegeur. And it was really posh, modern. At that time, there was the House of Representatives. So politically, there was the House of Assembly for white people. There's a House of Delegates for Indian people, and the House of Representatives for so-called colored people. There's nothing for black people.
It's so wild that
I know
that was the law, but also
the law.
It's amazing that you also had to, I'll say, figure this whole career and world that is unknown through all of that politics also.
Yeah, so that was a House of Reps hospital. They had all their budget, and it really was incredible. I'd heard of it, I hadn't seen it. Again, no internet. Okay, you can't just go on like Google Lentegeur Hospital. So he offered me a job, and he said, please, I'm looking for people of color. We don't have enough. They had a huge budget. There was 24 psychologists. There was 18 psychiatrists. So I then talk about it to my parents. My dad said, no, you can't go. You have to stay here. My mother was, no, you can't go. I speak to my boss. He's also not keen for me to go. He like wonderful man, Prof. Anthony Pillay is his name. And eventually I said, I really need to learn new stuff now. He said, okay. He said, go. I'll make a plan. I'll keep your post for 3 months. I won't advertise it. If you don't like it, come back. But I was still scared, a small town boy, hadn't really gone out.
Also going to a new top of the line.
I'd been to Cape Town for holidays, and I came to play table tennis many years ago. When I was playing competitive table tennis, I can't play rugby. Look at my size. I was okay at soccer, but I was really good at table tennis. I found something to suit my physique. So I came to Cape Town when I was 16 or 17, really liked it. One day I'll come back. Then, I came on holiday a few times and thought, I want to come work here. But where? Anyhow, this opportunity came up, but I'm not making the move. Eventually, George Savage phoned me and said, listen, I can't hold this job. You're either here by Sunday night or the job's gone. This is Friday.
You must change your whole life over a Saturday night.
Well, I was dragging my feet because I was also really anxious about the change and making my parents unhappy. And eventually I just said, fine, done. I got in the car, I remember. I drove. And those days, you go to the AA to get a map.
Yeah.
So you go to the AA, you get a map, and then the map shows you N1 or N2, Cape Town, and I pitch up, find my way to Mitchell's Plain. And I thought that I can speak Afrikaans. Because I had passed the voorbereid in the examen, and the laar and the woord. So I pitch up at Mitchell's Plain, open the window, and I chat to the guy, and then I don't know what he's saying, and he doesn't know what I'm saying.
We're speaking the same language.
And we're speaking Afrikaans, So I say to him, do you say, say Jay? And I say, what is it you're saying? So, and the wind was howling, and so I pitched up, and that day they gave me a place to stay in the nurses' home on one section. They said, okay, one section, you stay here. There's about 200 nurses on the other side. Just, don't go there, then stay here. And I remember sitting there, in the small room, which was the size of my bathroom, actually, in my parents' home, in my blue striped pajamas from Woolworths, and the wind is howling outside, and I think, I made a mistake. What if I don't speak the language? What if I don't like this? What if I don't like me? I made a mistake. So tomorrow, So I didn't unpack
a lot
the
of
car.
moving parts in your life that's gone.
Yeah, so I didn't unpack the car. I left the car and I said, look, tomorrow morning, Monday, I'll speak to Savage. I'll say, George, sorry, I made a mistake. I'm going to leave back. Then there was a knock on the door. I open the door, and then there are 3 nurses. And they say, we saw the NP car outside. I'm going to tell you, the first nights are the worst. You'll get over it. It's a really nice place. We're all not from Cape Town, but we've been here a month now. And we know that the first night feels really awful, but stick it out, it'll get better. And I stuck it out. And it was a fabulous learning experience. I stayed for almost 2.5 years. Made some fantastic mistakes along language. I remember the one time George said to me, he says, "Jy krap in my sly now, no?" And I said to him, "No, I've never seen your salad. I have no idea where your salad is." He just looked at me and said, and
it's the other world. But also, how was that though? Because you're also trying to get someone to speak about their feelings in a language that's like in broken language, because essentially you want someone to be comfortable and speak in their mother tongue so that they can give the honest opinion on things.
I was a quick learner.
Oh, okay.
Quick learner. The nurses were helping me and they were teaching me. But so in what we call, there's a ward round where we like you discuss the patient. Everybody sits there, the psychiatrist, psychologist, the nurse, the occupational therapist, physiotherapist, the registrars, interns. And they were discussing somebody, and I heard the word borslace. Okay, but I hear borslace. I think, they're discussing a heart attack, the psychological effects of a heart attack. So I'm figuring it out. I'm trying to catch the language. Eventually they say to me, "What do you think?" So I start giving all about the effects of a heart attack. Everybody looks at me and they go, "Yeah, man, borslace, tick bite fever. Tick bite, not a heart attack." So I said, "Oh." But they cut me slack. And that was the first month or so. But then I made a point of sitting. I said, teach me all the slang. I said, but don't teach me to go and greet people by saying your master or something, don't. Anyway, so I learned, and I really liked it. It was a great hospital. Dr. Hamildin, anything you wanted, if you went to say, look, I need extra staff, I need this, I need that, he'd make a plan.
So it always then helped to live on the premise.
I lived on the premises for about 3 months, and then eventually I moved out. The food was really bad. Then I discovered Wembley. So I would drive every night I figured out to drive down Highlands Drive, turn down that way, then turning to Klipfontein, find Wembley. So I would drive every night to Wembley. Serving soya sausages there. It was bad, man. So I then made friends with the Wembley people. So every night I'm there to buy chow.
So Wembley saved you.
Wembley saved me. And then eventually I moved out. I found a place. I boarded in Warmer Estate for a little while. And we had like a lift club. And we'd then drive till Internship, which was quite far, but petrol was cheap. But you share 1 week you, 1 week you, 4 or 5 of us. And then I lived in Garden Centre for a while. It was also not for people of color then.
Yeah.
But I had a friend now owned the flat, and she said, you can rent it from me. So it was interesting. Then I discovered there are lots of people of color living in Garden Centre.
It shouldn't be there also.
Should be there also. But, it's pick and pay, convenience. Then my dad had a heart attack. And then I had to go back to Pietermaritzburg. That was in 1992. My brother came to fetch me and said, okay, come back now. And then I got my old job back. But I had bosses there. And then I stayed till end of 92 to about the end of 93.
How was that to go back? Because you're also going back with a greater understanding of the bigger world outside, and now you're going back to the small town.
I went back very confident. Look, Internship is a big place. I went back a completely changed person. Confident in my abilities, confident in my skills, confident to bring the new stuff that I'd learned there. And again, Professor Pillay, open mind, he said, go for it. And I brought all these new ideas that I'd learned there. And that was great. I mean, we'd opened a child and family unit. I was running that for a while. I ran the adult psychotherapy unit. It was really good. And I said, I have all these ideas. See, Lendegier had so much money that you could have separate wards. You could have a ward for like just depression, and a ward for people who are not badly psychotic, but a little bit psychotic, and an award for grief, just grief issues. So it was nice. So I could learn specialized skills. It really helps to work with good people that you can learn from. And I was blessed, alhamdulillah, to work with good people all the time to keep learning. So I came with all these ideas, and I left an insecure person, came back confident, ready to apply these things. And my boss, Antin Pillay, said, go. He said, I got my full backing, go for it. And so I was able to make some transformative change, but I missed Cape Town. And then eventually in 94, I came back permanently.
Did you know when you went back that Cape Town was going to be home?
No, when I went back, I was the main thing is my dad's ill.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and get a job. But as I began to work, he got better, and I was missing Cape Town. Just a place. If Cape Town gets into your blood, then it's in your blood. You can't get it out. Some people don't like it. They at that time, they don't like the slowness. They don't like the tomorrow culture. You want something? No, tomorrow, man. Don't get it.
On a Friday at 2:00. That's the end of the end of the day. No one sends SMSs or emails after that. We go to the beach.
I like that. I like that culture. So other people from Joburg used to come. They say we can't stand this place. Yeah. But these are business people. They want things done. I'm not a business person. So eventually I came back in 1994, and then I went to work at Valkenburg Hospital. So that's like a new experience there again. I worked with a wonderful man called Dr. Charles Malcolm.
And Valkenburg is also a known brand.
It's an institution.
It's an institution, all institutions, yeah.
Yeah. So I worked a little while there. And then eventually I ended up at UWC. And I was meant to be there for about 6 months, and I stayed for 10 years.
So, and was UWC, was that your first teaching role that you had?
I had done part-time teaching because if you work at the hospital in Pietermaritzburg, then you get an automatic part-time position at the university, and so you required to teach. But it's like a small. You do a lecture a week. You teach the master students, you teach the interns. It's not like formal. Yeah. So, but I was teaching, and I liked it. I liked sharing information, things that I'd learned, mistakes I'd made. And so UWC was a really good experience. I really good, I still have friends. There was Umesh Bawa, Rashid Ahmed, these are all good friends. And they said, listen, come work for us. We need somebody with hospital experience to teach on the master's course.
So, yeah, it's also important that it's not just theory, but you must also have the lived experience of what the ground looks like.
Yeah. So I applied there. I got the job. I did relief teaching for somebody once, and then also people must like you. I didn't make a point. I just went. I taught, and I'm generally a friendly person. And then when the post came up, they said, apply. So I did, and I applied, and I got the post. Alhamdulillah. And then whole new shift now, from hospitals to full-time academic.
Did you not miss the madness of the...
Wrong word. Wrong word.
The
excitement of the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, I had a private practice.
It's a life shift.
It's a big shift.
Yeah.
As one of my friends would say, a Musa shift. But
I was holding that word back, but okay, we're fine now.
But then I started a private practice. So that helped me to still stay in touch with the real world while I was an academic. I really enjoyed my time at UWC. I taught first year, second year, third year, honors and masters.
What year were you reading, Mark?
1994 to 2004. So that was before your time.
Yeah, and I did a BA Psych and English also.
What year were you there?
I think it was the 2011.
Oh no, I was way gone by then.
My years are weird, but again, so it's interesting speaking to you with English and Psych also, because it's very much a thing that I really enjoyed, but I have problems with the testing again. That's what I found. I was one of those students where I could sit in class, I could do the work, do the assignment.
Oh, you mean write the exams?
Yeah.
Oh,
then the exams.
Exam anxiety.
Yeah, that's a big problem for me. And that's why also even today, sitting, I will listen to a lot of your lectures that you gave and the podcasts that are available that you've done. And I had the anxiety of just what am I going to speak about? What's going to happen tonight? And then, so shukran for coming tonight and easing the pain here.
Oh, no, I didn't even do any therapy on you.
No, it just sometimes, just the presence of someone who knows what they're doing, it makes you feel comfortable. So now that you're also dealing with students now from all walks of life, because it's now, after post-94, it's a free country, you're dealing with students who have the ability, but don't have the confidence.
Yeah.
All those other aspects. How do you empower those kids?
So there were lots of challenges. I mean, some students come from small little villages on the Platteland or from the Namakwa land, and they're bright students, but they come and they challenge it because A, they're not at home. B, they're missing. It's a small thing, but it's a big thing. Like their mother's cooking. They're just not used to this hostile food. Thirdly, the environment can be hostile.
Yeah.
And so some of the students were not doing well purely because they just couldn't adapt. And then we'd helped. We'd helped and look at what it is, and because academically, clearly they have the abilities, but other things are affecting them. Homesickness is a thing. Maybe not nowadays because of internet and you can see things, but certainly 94 internet was just starting. I mean, UWC were just starting to bring computers in that time, DOS computers. I remember that. Most of the people listening here might have no idea what a DOS computer is. So there were challenges for those students. But it was an exciting time to be on campus. There weren't budget cuts then. You had the freedom to read. UWC really valued teaching. I'm a show off now, but I won the Lecturer of the Year award in 1994 for Community and Health Sciences, which is really nice.
And then also, you've worked in the industry. Now you're teaching. To get an award is also to get and accept an award is also like a big thing on your person. How was that?
Literally, yeah, it was a big thing. I felt, and one has to be careful that the ego doesn't run away with you. But I have really good friends, who just smack me down and bring me back to reality if my head got too big. So that could depend on them. They would just basically clap me and say, "You're getting a big head now. Focus, come back." That helped.
And then from UWC, how do you leave and why do you leave?
So in 2003, I had a brother. I still have a mother. Then my dad dies in 99, so I go to the funeral, but then I come back to Cape Town. And then in 2003, I get a call from one of my friends who say, "Listen, just fly down to Maritzburg, please, on to talk to you." So I say, "Why?" I said, "Just come." So I go down. He says, "Your brother's got colon cancer. He's going to die in 3 months." I'm thinking this is a joke. I said, "I'm not about." He said, "No, I wouldn't have made you come for this." I said, "No, he's going to die. He's got very bad colon cancer." And then I come back. My mother's visiting. She starts to cough quite a lot. I take her to see one of my friends, pulmonologists. At that time, Axel Bruning, in his chest. He says, "Rafiq, talk to her." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Your mother's going to die in 3 months. She's got lung cancer." So I'm teaching in UWC at the time. I'm living in like a 2-bedroom apartment, comfortable for me. And I'm now told my 2 main family members are going to die in 3 months. Wow. So that really threw me. So I thought, okay. But my mother, she's 92, alhamdulillah. So I said to Dr. I said, "Listen, okay, let's give her the news, but don't give her the 3 months. Get her out, just tell her." So he calls in and he says to her, "Mr. Lockhat, you've got lung cancer." She said, "But I don't smoke, I don't do any of this stuff." He said, "These things happen, but it's stage 4, it's quite severe." So she cried, and after a minute, she says, "Okay, so how are we going to fight this?" And he goes, "Oh, okay, fine, there are ways to fight it." So I also learned then about attitude to illness. Look, ultimately it's all up to Allah. But we know psychologically wise, your attitude to illness also makes a difference to how your body responds. And she had chemotherapy and she had radiotherapy and she survived from
Oh, was that here in Cape Town or was
Cape Town. Oh, she stayed with me. Because my father had been, he passed on by then. So I said, you can't go back, just live here. My brother also then moved here to stay with me. So then I moved to like a bigger apartment because we needed more bathrooms for the sick family. And so I took the year off in UWC. But I'd used up all my leave because I'd taken, just the year before that, I took my sabbatical. I used it to travel. One can do that. You go to universities around the world, you spend some time teaching, lecturing.
in your sabbatical? Do you go teach at other universities, or are you just learning at different camps?
You can do both. But so you can teach, you can do research, and it's called a sabbatical for that purpose. So I used it well. I taught. I went to different countries, spent time there at different conferences, learned things, came back. And then now they're sick. I need leave. There isn't any leave. So I said, look, I must resign. Then at that time, the head of department, Charles Malcolm, he said, listen. So my same boss at Falkenberg somehow ended up at UWC. And he said, look, he said, don't resign. He said, we can't lose what they call institutional knowledge. He said, so just take unpaid leave. But luckily by then, alhamdulillah, I had a private practice, which was very small part-time, which I didn't need it. It was not ready for spending money. But that suddenly now became my full-time position because I'm looking after these two sick people. And my brother survived 9 months. He didn't make it. He died at 32. But my mother survived. She's still living. 92, going stronger than ever. I mean, she's a master with the cell phone. My daughters taught her how to do WhatsApps and emojis, and it's amazing how it's really changed how she interacts with people. She can talk to people anywhere in the world now. And at first she was, no, I don't know this. What is this? Give me my normal cell phone. We said, no, it's a smartphone. You can do this. Not me and my daughters. I'm pretty hopeless at these things. But they taught her that, and she keeps in touch, and she gets the emojis just right as well. Perfect.
But I feel like the cell phone have also given the cell phones have given I feel the older people almost like a connection to the world.
Totally.
So they're not like just waiting in society. Like they actually are part of it. They can comment.
Fully engaged. She talks to people everywhere around the world. She sends videos. She's now an expert on YouTube. Nice. But also people, anything they read, they think it's a fact. So I drink hot water to fix COVID, that kind of thing. Now I say, mommy, no. They're also prone to scams. Yes. So I said to please, you get any kind of SMS or WhatsApp, do not click. Send it to me and ask me, I'll tell you. She got excited. There's 100,000 rand, said mommy. You're not going to win 100,000. Do not click on the link, okay, please. But yeah, so then that year I spent looking after them. I think it was a very valuable thing. At the end of the year, I couldn't go back because I got completely used to independence.
You've changed gears.
I changed gears, completely used to making my own time. Just the lectures, you must be there, it's structured. And I just got used to that.
Is that also like a moment of quality of life? Where you start choosing like a life that fits you better than like keeping a hard schedule of a life?
It's hard to say. Just at that time, I got used to that. So now we're talking about 2004, 2003 to end of 2000 begin 2004. My year was done. I said, "We coming back?" So I said, "No, I'm not coming back." Why not come? I said, "I just got used to another life now." Because I had to, take them for chemo, take them for treatment, and also see patients. And then I really liked the flexibility. University is not flexible. It's like it shouldn't be. If your lectures is this time, you must be there to lecture. And it was great. Before I had not everybody likes freedom. Some people like structure, and that's okay. Some people like that structure. I liked it for a while, for 10 years. And but then I got used to this freedom to make my own time, own choices. Yeah. And after my brother died, and then I said, I'm not going back to campus. I'll do full-time practice. And then life changed again.
And And then, so when you went full time, how, at that point, did you see a shift in the amount of, I'll say, POCs that started coming through for, as I said, psychological treatment?
What's a POC?
Like a person of color.
Oh.
Like a black or colored or Indian person, sorry.
Well, look, my practice is in Athlone.
Okay.
So I've always had like a working class practice, Athlone, Taunton Road. That room's been there for 30 years now. So I've always had my patient load has been working class people or middle class people. And I worked hard, but I think that if you enjoy your work, it doesn't feel like hard work.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel, and I felt like, I know this is a cliche, that I'm making a difference. If somebody comes in with a phobia, they can't take an injection, fix them, they can do it. And so that went well. Alhamdulillah, that went. My practice was really good. I had to, there are lots of things. The practice is, you got to learn the business side, which we're all quite hopeless at, and SARS and these kinds of things, and how to do your billing properly. And when I started practice, there were like maybe 150 medical aids in the country.
Yeah.
Now there's maybe like 6 or 7. So that's all changed, and there wasn't all these forms to fill out. So that went well. I got married in 2004. Wife's name's Huda, and I have 2 children, teenage daughters.
MashaAllah.
Teenage daughters. For the ones busy with matric this year. Other one, I'm scared of their moods.
So, especially as a psychologist, how do you not overanalyze yourself also? Because you also, like, you're teaching the thing, but what's the moment that you go, that doesn't apply to me, I'm too deep in this, I must just, because there's all these different, especially like with psychology, there's all these schools of thought that can be applied to everything, but don't necessarily need to be applied. What's the limits that you do think?
So I think, like, in your personal life, you're just a person. Like, I have no special skill as a dad. I make mistakes like everybody else. As a husband, I make a lot of mistakes. So, one doesn't have any special skills as a person. Your skills, when you walk into the therapy room, that's your zone. You take over. You know what you're doing in there. At home, you're just lost like everybody else. Unsure about it.
Forgetting about to buy milk.
Thank God for WhatsApps now,
I've been so many times, but my wife also nowadays, when I go out and I message her, what must I bring? And she's like, I've sent you the list already. I'm like, okay.
And my daughters need things, they'll send me for, and then, there's like 1 million of them. And then you look down, ask for help, and the person there can't help either. Intimate products. But now I got video call. I say, here. Which one? Okay, I'm going to point to you. Show me which one this is, right? This that one, Daddy. Okay, fine, I'll give it.
You need now, I'll say, a course for lost husbands, lost fathers in the aisles. Save us.
And then the next big change came when COVID happened. So it's obviously by then, and then I was also working at a place called Summit Clinic. It was a Rondebach Medical Center that time. It was a fantastic place where you can admit patients, and they stay for like 3 weeks. That was going really well. So alhamdulillah, practice was well. I was doing well. So very happy, no problems generally. Then COVID happened. And then COVID changed everything. Because now suddenly everything closed down. Okay, all the hospitals closed, and they wanted our clinic for the COVID patients. And yes, I got a vaccination early as a health worker, but my staff were at risk. So one can't tell them to come to work. So I have a permit to go to work, but none of the staff were vaccinated. So one couldn't engage in them. And the reality is, all of us thought lockdown would be 2 months. I remember clearly when Cyril said in March 2020, I said to Huda, 2 months max 2 months.
Little did we know.
Little did we know. So for the first week, we were all, stuck at home. But okay, luckily I lived in a house. I'd moved to Somerset West that time. So that's still like another move from Sea Point. I was 24 years in Sea Point. And then I moved to Somerset West, a different life.
So far out from the world that I'll say the Cape Town that you knew and grew up with.
Different time for different mood, like clean air, fresh, quieter. Sea Point became very busy.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was the right place to raise two Muslim girls, in my opinion. Now it became very, if you're single, fantastic, vibey. I wanted a quieter place for them. And they weren't old enough to object.
Make them with the big
They weren't old enough to object. They just went with the flow. And it was a good experience, life there. Then COVID happened. And then suddenly, so now, okay, we can't see patients, but also patients are scared to come to a clinic because, people are dying. People are dying. People were dying in droves. You may not, remember that. So how do you see your patients now? So then they started talking about this online thing. I didn't know what online stuff was. Also, the general feeling was that therapy must be face-to-face. But COVID is making that impossible. So what do? Your patients are freaking out. They got COVID anxiety. They have lots of complicated grief. People are dying in hospitals. They're not getting to see their family members. If they're lucky, they get a video call.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are just like dying by themselves. Family couldn't say goodbye. You can't see them. And I think those days they were just taking the body out and doing and burying them instantly.
Yeah.
So it was a very uncertain time. Uncertain me also because I make a living out of seeing my patients. Can't see patients. Patients are panicked. So people talking about this online stuff. Internationally, I started talking about Zoom. I knew what Skype was. Skype I'd used before, but Zoom and Teams and Google Meets. Okay, I knew WhatsApp video call. But actually how to do therapy online, I had no idea. But now another learning has to happen. Now you do all the research about how to do online, make your appointments, how does that work? I have a very smart wife who knows these things, is teaching me, and she's reasonably patient. Up to a point, and she just get dick with me. And then she said, no, you get it right. So then I had to learn to do online therapy.
That's not the therapy that you...
No, that's not the therapy that we taught.
Yeah.
Because online wasn't a thing. It must be face-to-face. You need body language, etc. But luckily, by then, I was practicing a new kind of therapy. I'll talk about that, brain working, recursive therapy, which I discovered in 2013. I did the online course, and I really liked it, and I thought this could be an amazing therapy for South Africa. The man who invented it is an English gentleman. He's 83 this year, Terence Watts. And then I was a student, and then I said to him, this is an amazing therapy, and I'm going to help you because I have access to patients in the clinic. So now 2013, 2014. So I began to see basically all my patients trying out this new therapy, and it was working fantastically well.
What's the difference of that therapy to, I'll say, it's standard?
Right. So standard therapy is talk therapy. We talk, you tell me the problems, I listen, I give you advice, I make suggestions, I help you understand your problems, I help you understand why you've got let's say a butterfly phobia. And but it's long.
Yeah.
You come like regularly, and it's what we call management. So the older therapies were what we call management therapies. So you get angry, we teach you anger management. Right? You have anxiety, we teach you anxiety management. You have panic, we teach you panic management, stress management. Okay, the word management's important. We couldn't stop your brain producing the anger or the anxiety. We could teach you how to manage it. But management is a hard word because, depending on how stressed you are, you're either going to remember the management or not. Somebody's got public speaking fear. We teach, when you get the fear, what you do, you breathe, you look at something, you focus. There's something called systematic desensitization. But all of these things take time, and ultimately they're management. You'll still get the panic, but we've taught you how to not freak out. Anytime you're still sweating and your palms are still wet and your mouth's still dry, but we did an excellent job teaching you how to manage. Okay, brain working, recursive theory, BWRT is not made. It's a completely new one where we get to that part in the brain that's generating the panic in the first place and fix it there. So the understanding is that if you think about a computer, the computer takes its instructions from software.
Yeah.
Whatever the software says, the computer just does. Doesn't argue, doesn't disagree, it just follows the instructions. If you've got an old version of WhatsApp on your phone, and you can't delete from other people if you accidentally send the wrong message to the wrong group, with the old version, you're stuck.
Yeah.
It's there. Now you got to upgrade to the newer version so that you get new functionality. You can then delete that. Likewise, if you've got like an old version of Adobe, you can't open the document. Yeah. You download an old. You got Windows 2000. It's fantastic, but outdated now. So brainwork therapy, BWRT, is like that. It's understanding that our brain has downloaded old patterns of thoughts, feelings, or behaviors, and we can overwrite that data in your brain now. We can overwrite the data, give your brain new functionality, by basically giving you an upgrade, by giving you new software. Okay, so that your brain doesn't produce the anxiety in the first place, which means there's no management required.
Stop it from the beginning.
Right, it doesn't produce the panic around speaking because we put in new software. So at that part in the brain where the brain's generating it, and that's only happened because of neuroscience. So as new knowledge, and I'm certain in 5 years' time there'll be something new coming out. So we've got to keep up. So, but right now this is the fastest. So I've changed my therapy and I only use BWRT.
And it's also from my understanding, it's also a shorter.
It's a shorter therapy. Generally, you can fix things in like shorter period of time. You don't have to come in every week to see me. So this therapy lent itself perfectly to online. But now I've got to learn online. So now I learn about ring lights, and I learn about putting the chair at the right height, and you could put things so they don't look up your nostril. Things we don't know about.
And load shedding you also deal with.
And load shedding. So now you're going to buy inverters. And so I start to do the online work. And it works. And I'm thinking, this is fantastic, okay? So
to be at home still.
Right, and we stuck at home for the year, but the patients are grateful because they don't need to travel, they're safe, and the therapy is working perfectly online. All the people and I also started training South African psychologists and psychiatrists and registered counselors and then what we call clinical social workers with a master's degree. Started training them the therapies, and everybody wanted to learn it because it's so fast, it's cost effective, money is a problem. Yeah. It's working fine. And then, of course, COVID came along, and then I applied it. But then again, lots of new learning. Yeah. So as you can see, throughout my life, there's been very periods of change, and one had to learn new things. So now I have to learn to work online, learn about ring lights, learn about Zoom, learn how to do the invitations. Yeah. Stuff that I'd never done, needed, or seen before. If you don't need something, you don't learn it.
You also had to do it yourself.
No, my wife helped me. Wife helped me.
Well, but the thing of the staff of the clinic wasn't there. So
right, but they could work from home.
Oh, okay.
So they still had my appointment book. They were still handling the bookings. But they send me the patient's name, and then I get the email address, and then send the invite by Zoom. So that worked really well, alhamdulillah. Then I got used to that. So eventually when COVID finished and they made it safe, I said, I'm not going back. I want to sit in traffic for hours, number one. Number two, the patients are all working from home still. They don't want to travel either. So it's really convenient. And if Zoom doesn't work, we use WhatsApp. WhatsApp doesn't work, or whatever it is, then you Google Meets or Teams or Skype. And then basically all these platforms started upgrading and making their systems safe and encrypted, for safety. So people can't hack in and listen to your conversation. Yeah. So they started upgrading, which was really nice. And so for the whole of 2020 and the whole of 2021, I just worked online.
And that was also, it was also a time where mental health became
a big thing.
And a necessity for the world to speak about. And I think a lot of people took it more serious. Older people also, and younger people always feel like they get with the times quick.
Yeah, but there were lots of grief, lots of death issues, and lots of COVID anxiety. We discovered millions of people had needle phobias. They didn't even know themselves. But now suddenly, so with BWRT, we could fix it in one session. They could go and they need MRI. They don't want to go into that thing, a panic attack, because it's very close. Some people can fix it on the spot. But then the next interesting thing happened. So now, I'm working 2 years online. I like it. It works. I know it works. We've now done it for 2 years. Works great. So my wife and I talk about, if you're working online, why don't we travel? And then you can work from anywhere in the world, because I don't tell my patients where I am.
Yeah.
They don't ask you. They're working online. And so she said, right, let's do it. And so I put my children into UCT online schooling. It just came out that year. There were some challenges there, but they agreed. I said, come, let's travel. And long as I can work and earn, then we can travel. Yeah. So I wanted Muslim countries, first of all. Then I wanted warm countries. I don't like cold. I know. And halal food is real. But also, I wanted my children to learn the difference between Islam and culture.
Yeah.
I want them to be exposed to that. So we chose Egypt as our first start. But every time we tried to leave, then Omicron came out. And every country bans us again, like it's our fault. Like the South Africans invented Omicron. Yeah. Remember that time?
Yeah, we want everybody's watch list.
Yeah, so at first everything's done. Okay, the country opening up. Then we get our tickets, our visa, and boom, country is closed again.
And then lockdowns were also changing.
And then lockdowns were changing. So the moment I said, look, Egypt's open. Let's run. Get there now. So we got there 2022 Feb. March, I wanted to spend Ramadan. I mean, I've done Ramadan thing in Saudi, but that's different. You're there here. I wanted us to live as locals.
Yeah.
Okay, to experience life as a local person. My daughters to see the thing, and so we get to Egypt. It's a little cold that time. People say, "Don't worry, overnight it will change. You'll see. Don't go buy big jerseys and stuff." And Ramadan was very nice there. It's completely different. We were in Cairo. And I had a rule that every month or so we must move to another area.
Within Egypt?
Yeah, because otherwise you live in Sea Point for 3 months. You say, oh no, I know Cape Town.
Yeah, you know South Africa. Just even
No, you only know Sea Point. So it's like a month in Sea Point, a month in, say, Athlone, a month in Stellenbosch. So you kind of get... not everything, but some differences. Yeah, you get the nuances of each area. So that was very nice. I made a mistake in Egypt. So the first area was fantastic. It was Zamalek. It was a fantastic area, very vibey. And of course, safety. We're not used to that. So the first week, we're walking out at night. And Arab culture only starts after 10 o'clock. We're not used to that in South Africa. Now, of course, in Umrah, but this is our normal life. And my daughters were seeing all these young girls coming out of night school and walking in total safety. And the first week they were hiding behind me. Daddy, is a man walking toward me. I wasn't sure also. Yeah. It's a dark street. There's two guys. Boy, yeah. Then this makes salam and they walk past. And I was like, okay, phew. And then after like a week or so, you realize nobody's going to harm you. And my daughters got used to that. They were going out by themselves, going to buy something called salabiyat, like a donut. Fantastic thing. They just walk around anyway going out. Yeah, I didn't worry. I didn't stress about them because we'd seen it. People warned us, the men are going to harass your daughters, they're going to harass your wife. I can tell you, we didn't have, I can't speak for the rest, but we didn't have one issue around Egyptian men harassing my daughters all my life. Not one. People are terrified of the police. I noticed that. They're absolutely terrified of the police. They don't. And if a woman just screams for help, 2,000 men will come out of nowhere and beat the guy into pulp.
I think that's also another thing as a South African. When you travel, you realize how much tension of like fear of the crime and stuff that you carry in your body when you travel and you go, oh, it's these different rules.
Different rules. I mean, they also don't have freedom of expression, so we're talking about that, you know. And so I said to them, we'll swap. We'll give you the right to protest. You give us the total safety you have. We were laughing about that. So no country is perfect. And we chose Egypt because it's a good place to start for Ramadan, and also it's affordable as South Africans. Europe, and that's a waste of time. Firstly, there's no halal food. You're going to suckle everywhere. Yeah, everywhere you go, it's wonderful. Anyway, 3 months were up, and then we left. And then we went to Turkey. It's another culture completely. Muslim, halal food, but completely new culture. Now our daughters got used to life again. And at first we stayed in like the tourist area near a place called Galata Port. Very nice, very vibey. Then we moved to a very quiet area called Bakirköy. We were the only foreigners. It was a completely new experience again. And
And how did they take to you as...
So at first, a little bit reserved until they saw us in the masjid for Jummah. And so there's all these little lanes and all these people got all, it's like how it is, they're all family-owned stores and beautiful lanes, like this, planning, and everybody's got a shop. So we're staying there, and of course they see us walking, but they're not sure who we are, because even some people wear scarves and they still, But when they saw us for Jummah, then after that it was different. Then you walk past the shop, Salaam Alaikum, they're chatting and come inside, and the English is not great in the non-tourist areas. But then there's the Google Translate, which was fantastic. Yeah, we just say, punch it in, cool, chat. And then that was another experience, very nice. Again, absolute safety.
How long were you?
4 months. Okay. We overstayed by a month, but we applied to extend our visa. As somebody said to us, if you apply, long as you're in the system, they can't chuck you out because you've applied.
Yeah.
Of course, they eventually declined us, but by then we're okay. We're ready to. South Africans get a 3-month visa, but you must leave every 30 days. It's a strange system.
Oh, I mean, spend a few days here and then go back.
Which is easy if you've got a European passport, because then you just go to the island of Rhodes. Yeah. Like you take a boat, half an hour, you stamp your passport, come back in again. But for South Africans, that would mean leaving the country. Most South Africans go to Georgia. Georgia, there's a 1-year visa for South Africans. I don't know why, but I'll tell you why we discovered that. But again, it's expensive. If you're single, it's okay. Yeah. But now you've got a wife and 2 kids, you've got to fly, land, fly back. So they said to us, just apply for this thing to extend, then you can just stay. So we learned a lot about travel tips and that. And then the last month, we stayed in an area called Ortaköy. There's a beautiful Ortaköy masjid. All the masjids in Turkey are just spectacular. Egypt has a maintenance issue. They don't do maintenance well. I discovered that they don't do maintenance well. They
put up at first nice, and then
it's also very old. Yeah. And basically, Cairo is a desert, right? Without the Nile, it would be, as I see, the desert. But we learned a lot, and we also learned that they do museums. Fantastic. You walk in another century, then you walk out and you fall into a pothole. So, which was familiar, which is very familiar in South Africa. But I think they've started some renovation, but they don't. I didn't feel that they maintain the mosques.
When is Egypt getting this stuff back from outside the world museums?
They're not going to get it back. They're not going to get it back. So I think that they could build a better job at maintaining the masjids. Whereas like Turkey, the mosques are pristine. If you've been, every mosque looks 5-star. Every mosque is like a beautiful. So we spent there. And then, time for Turkey was over. And my daughters again learned a lot about culture and Turkish life and the difference between Arab, Turkish. And then we said, well, look, it's on we were going to Malaysia. But I said, let's stop in Georgia because it's on the way and there's no visa. We stopped in Georgia. Interesting place.
This is 2020?
22. So on the way to Malaysia now, pulled into Georgia. Interesting. 2 big cities, Tbilisi, which is the capital, and Batumi, which is on the Black Sea. If everybody watched Fast and Furious 9, you'll see Tbilisi was like the main thing at the ending of that one. And it was very interesting. Halal food is hard to find and very expensive, times 7. So the thing is that Turkey was, again, for food, really cheap.
Yeah.
So very affordable. You could eat well without having to panic. Get to Georgia, it's times 7. So whereas you're spending maybe on Turkey for supper 200 rands, suddenly 1,500 rands. So we didn't stay long in Georgia. It's going to change because they now have direct flights from Jeddah to Batumi.
So
okay.
More tourism.
Yeah, so more tourism will come eventually. So halal food will then become normal. And then we left for Malaysia. And we wanted to go to Malaysia because my wife had did some high schooling there many years back. My father-in-law was traveling. he was an academic. He's an academic, so he did his first degree in Egypt, second degree in Pakistan, third degree in Malaysia. So they moved around with his family. So she wanted to go back to see what Malaysia was like from when she was there in the 80s or 90s. And it was completely changed. She said, I think that at that time when she was in school, it was Mahathir. And he made lots of promises, what he called the Vision 2020. And she said that he had delivered on all of that. From her 1980 to 2022, he had delivered on the transport system. And Malaysia was just wonderful. KL. And KL really, everyone looks like they're from Cape Town.
I was about to say now.
And I understand genetics now very well. So if there's 4 aunties, they're talking, even they're talking Malaysian, they really sound like aunties from Atla. My daughters kept saying, isn't that auntie? I said, no, that's not auntie so-and-so. It's not. They look the same and they're very polite. They're the most politest people that we found. KL is a very modern city. It's very easy to live and to get around. Also very affordable again. Even though it's times 4, but like a meal is 15 ringgits.
So the cost of living is...
So times 4 is 60 rand. Right, yeah. Cost of living very cheap. Again, transport cheap, petrol's cheap. And safety. There is like petty robberies, but people drive with motorbike, they grab your handbag, but no one's getting shot and killed. So that was a different thing. And so we spent 3 months there. And eventually I had to come back home. My daughters said, Dad, we want normal school now. UCT, that was the first year. And their systems weren't working right.
So it's a year on the road.
It's a year. And of course, moving to different areas every month. I know my daughters hated that, but I said, we really... Yeah. So what's interesting is that they've come back, they left complaining, whining, teenage girls. They've come back. Nothing bothers them. They can deal with anything. We went through so many challenges, which was the point. I said to my wife, let's have an adventure. Okay, we won't get this chance again because they're going to get older and they don't want to hang out with us. But now they're not young enough to be helpless, not old enough to say, I don't want. So just in that right age group. And Allah made it possible for us and we went. And I worked. I worked they did schooling. I worked my normal hours. And so all my South African patients, I took my same background that I had my bookshelf. So the patients didn't feel unfamiliar. They had a familiar background. I worked normal hours. Malaysia, time difference was a little bit rough. I had to start work 2 p.m. there and end up 11:30. But it was great because then I had the morning off.
Yeah.
Hang out, go for breakfast, go to the gym every day, swim. In Malaysia, the apartments are very well designed. They have gyms, pools, and you just walk out onto the train. That was amazing.
I mean, what's life like coming back now once you've seen the...
I said to them, come, let's just keep traveling. Come, I said, let's just go. I said, we'll just go to affordable countries. We'll go to Vietnam, Thailand, India, Pakistan. Let's just go. We'll just keep like following the sun. As long as it's warm, we can be all right. I can't do cold, man. And they said, no, Dad, it's enough now. It's 1 year, we're missing our granny, our grandpa, we're missing our friend, missing a uniform. You're missing a uniform? Yeah, we just want to feel like school again. So we came back and just adapted to life again. And then we didn't go back to Somerset West.
Yeah.
Next change. My daughters then said they don't want to go to Somerset West to the farm. It's for old people. They can go retire. And all their cousins are southern suburbs. Can please come back to the side of the world. So halfway through, we applied, got into school. And I came back and didn't go back to my house. All the stuff was in storage. So it's like another change. Again.
You're going to see a new Cape Town again.
Yet another change. We're living to an area that I don't know anything about. I'm in Kenilworth now. Just had to adapt to that again.
So is that the theme of your life? Of just we adapt and we dala. We go forward and we learn and keep carrying on.
Yeah, because I think the only constant is change. And I know that some people really are okay. They do the same thing for many, but I think that change will come. They change your age, like your age, things change in your body's abilities. People pass on. But if I look back, as I'm talking to now, I can see just how many changes there have been. And alhamdulillah, I've managed the changes. Even as I get older, I still do change.
And you're still open to the learning that must happen.
Still open. The learning can never stop. I mean, the Quran is clear, the cradle to the grave. So you're learning constantly, your brain. And I think that's one of the gifts, is that we have the ability to learn and learn new stuff all the time.
I actually wasn't asked, so when you went to the, I'll say, online therapy
platform,
what's the changes that you felt you needed to do so that you can connect with the patients?
Well, 3 things. Get your lighting right, so you're not in dark and hidden. Secondly, get the height right, so they don't look up your nostrils. And thirdly, make sure that you have really good internet.
Yeah. And in presentation, did you need to change anything?
No.
Of were people open to that platform from the get-go, or did they have to relearn? And
initially, some anxiety on people's part, but people were during COVID desperate for therapy. Yeah. So it was either that or nothing. And then they discovered really how simple it is. And people who don't have Wi-Fi, they go park in a McDonald's car park. No, really. And then they just use the Wi-Fi there. The thing that disrupts my sessions most is cats. Cats will always come and stick their face in the camera and knock the camera off.
I want to laugh because I had the same problem with my cats and my therapist during that time.
Yeah, and cats. I don't know what to do with cats, but they come and fiddle with the cameras and they interfere with the kind of stick they wave. For some people, privacy is an issue, but then they go sit in the car in the garage. And they take their phone with them and then they work from that. Some people say, I want face-to-face. And I say, okay, let's try one session, see if it works for you. Oh, it works great. No, it doesn't work for me. Then I refer to colleagues then who are working online. So my room's in Athlone. I've let them out to one of my colleagues and other psychologists there. And I say, no problem, you can see that person. But about 98% of people who've tried online are very happy with it. It works. I know, but you can't feel anything. Everything's the same. The difference is I can't see your feet. And I can't see your knees. But with BWRT, I don't need to do that. So that therapy also came at the right time. So it fitted in perfectly. I don't need to be seeing your whole body. Okay, your eyes and your face is important. And through that, I can do the therapy.
Just before we wrap up, I'll say a hard question for the time now. We're dealing in a world where every day is a lot of grief.
Yes.
It's a lot. And a lot of us, we're struggling. We're struggling to find light. And then also once you do find some form of happiness, it's difficult to, you almost feel guilty for being happy in a time where we're seeing a genocide and the massacre.
Sure.
What? I know you're not supposed to give, I'll say, advice outside of the counseling, but do you have any words of advice or tips for the people that's going through all of this?
Yeah. So, I mean, firstly, the brain works on patterns and the brain works on triggers. So if you've downloaded particular software that makes you react to certain things in a particular way that's not helpful, that can be fixed. So the first thing is not to be afraid of therapy. Secondly, the stereotype of I have to talk for months and nothing will change, that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, that's gone. That's like a typewriter now, or like a Nokia 3310, or like BlackBerry. Okay, that was the best at the time, but now we got smartphones. So in the same way, I say my common thing is, firstly, don't be afraid of therapy. Secondly, therapy is not going to be months and months, depending on your conditions. But simple things like anxiety, like panic, like phobias, I can't get over the death of my dad. It's just really so. Those things can be fixed relatively quickly now. So there's no need for people to suffer anymore. There's no need for people to feel that they're struggling psychologically. Okay, we can't give people a job, but we can train the brain to deal with the stress of not having the job. If you're going for, let's say, medical procedures, that freaks people out, understandably. So we can't cure the disease, but we can change the way your brain handles the illness. Okay? And then that changes your positivity around, and it's up to Allah ultimately. But for example, women have really bad birth experiences for whatever reason, and now they're pregnant again, and now they start getting terrified of the new birth. Simply for the reason because their brain has downloaded that bad memory. And as they get closer to giving birth, the brain goes, hey, wait, I've seen this before. It's going to happen again. Press play, and then that whole video plays in your brain, and then your brain can't tell the difference. So then it generates panic, terrible. And of course, that's bad for the woman, bad for the baby. We can fix that in 1 or 2 sessions, he says. It's just about basically overriding the bad software. So there's very few conditions. Okay, and I want to say this, and so I only use BWRT, so I can talk about that. There are many other therapies, but they are very quick, short therapies. So the stereotype, like Freud had, you go in 3 times a week, like for 2 years, that's gone. So people mustn't be afraid of therapy. Remember, cost is an issue. So, but if you can, buy cigarettes and spend a lot of money on that, for example, you can just go and get sorted out quickly. So that's the tip. The second thing is really how to handle anxiety. Okay, anxiety causes problems because it also creates chemical issues. Yeah. Okay, so when you are stressed and you're in an anxious state, your body then produces adrenaline and cortisol, which unfortunately affects your ability to think. So students who have exam anxiety know this. Right? They go to exam, they've studied hard, they sit there, there's one word they don't recognize, and then it trips the alarm system in the brain. The brain goes, emergency, presses the button, and then of course the safe thing, like your heart starts to beat, because now you must pump blood because there's an emergency. It's not a real emergency, it's a false alarm, but your body is going to have to react because the emergency button has been pushed. Yeah. And when that happens, your body has to do what it does in a real emergency, which is pump blood, which is then talk to your adrenal gland and say pump adrenaline, which is like 20 Red Bulls pumping into you. And of course, that whole system is designed to switch off your prefrontal cortex, meaning your logical brain, because in an emergency you have to act, not think. Except when you're writing exams, you need to think, not act. So that system gets kind of like reversed, unfortunately. And so that's easy to fix also. It's just about putting in the right software so that your brain doesn't give you the false alarm. So I think what I do want to say to people is that there are many conditions that can be sorted out, inshallah, really quickly, unlike the old days where you have to go and talk. So there's still talking therapy, and there'll always be a place for that, but it's not the norm anymore. Now the norm is, okay, you got a panic attack, we help you fix it. Your anxiety, fix it. Right? You got phobia, you can't get into a plane, we'll sort that out for you in 2 or 3 sessions. You'll be flying. People come Hajj time, I can't go to Hajj. I can't get on the plane. The thought of I get claustrophobia, I'm panicking. You can fix that. And that makes therapy very meaningful because we're making a difference in people. You get hijacked. Okay, last night, today we sort you out, you're fine. You have a home invasion. You can't sleep, you're panicking, you're getting flashbacks. With 2 or 3 sessions, you sort it. And I'm not saying that lightly. Yeah. I'm saying that now as somebody who's got like 32 years of experience in practice. And I'm not showing up either. This is just factual. I've trained close to 3,000 practitioners, BWRT, wow, including about 47 psychiatrists. Okay, most of them are using it. So it's the therapy that's getting the result. As a doctor, it's not me, it's the penicillin, right, that's sorting out the illness. I may have a nicer way of putting it in your bum and injecting you nicely, but I can't take the credit for the penicillin doing the job, right? So in the same way, it's the therapy, the BWRT therapy that's making the difference. If you had come to me, it's 10 years now. 10 years back, I'd be doing other therapies, the old school therapies, because that would be like the best that we had. But now there's new. So nobody's using BlackBerry anymore. So yeah, that's what I'd say to people. Those are my tips. Don't be afraid of therapy. If you're battling with something, just go and get the help, get sorted, get on with life. Suffering does not necessary anymore. It's there really isn't a need to suffer anymore.
And to suffer in silence also.
And suffer in silence is a bad idea, because obviously then you just generate all these chemicals, and then remember now you're irritable. Okay, because you've got all this adrenaline, so you're basically like you're a fight waiting to happen. At some point you're going to explode. Okay, road rage, very common. Someone cuts in you at the wrong time, you're just going to lose it and then get yourself shot because you jump out of the car, whatever it is. Your relationship takes strain because you're withdrawn or you're irritable. Family is not sure what's up with you. Okay, your kids' workspace stress is real.
Yeah.
People, your bosses expect stuff, your colleagues, there's bullying happening in the workspace as well. You think it's just in schools. It's not.
Adults still bully adults also.
Adults bully adults in different ways. There's sexual stuff going on, coercion. But all of these, people can get help in how to deal with them. Like leaving work is not always the best option. You can't leave without a job these days. Unless you've got some big trust fund somewhere, it's not, So I don't advise people to just leave. I say, no, wait, let's see how we can fix, how we can deal with this. There are different ways. Let's look at the options first. Is it you overreacting? If that's true, we can teach you. If you're not overreacting, if you're getting a panic, but there's a person coming now, your brain can handle it differently. But don't leave yet, because that then brings completely new problems. You may be out of the stress of work, but now you can't pay your bond, you can't buy groceries. Then you're like, I should never have left, because then that new stress is probably worse than the bullying. Because there's huge consequences to losing your house.
You covered your whole life and the extras with it. And firstly, I'm very grateful. Shukran
They've taught my childhood, but we'll leave that for now.
That's the next episode. But also, shukran for sharing. I also feel like I should come to you. There's a few things as you were telling your story, I go, oh, that's something I need to bring up, something I need to deal with. And I feel like a lot of people, this conversation will like those moments that we need to speak more. We need to go to a psychologist if we can. And also, psychology is not a lifelong thing anymore. Or it can be, but the shorter terms.
Yeah, and the one thing that did stop people before was the stigma. Is Malay, is Dante. Those days are gone. I don't think it applies anymore, because I think, shows like this make a huge difference, and lots of influencers are talking about their own mental health issues. Like people watch soapies. I don't watch soapies anymore, but in soapies, they quite a lot of them are they put therapy in as part of the person going for help. So if you see your soapy star going for therapy, it makes it okay.
I think also common language has become fine now, speaking about red flags and mental health and depression. While sometimes they get it wrong on TV with anxiety and things, and OCD, I think that always gets mislabeled a lot.
True.
But I do feel like those words being in the sphere makes people more comfortable dealing with those things.
That's true. And I think that just the last thing, the other thing people often say, no, just make dua, everything will come fine. That's not true, because if you have cancer, you don't say make dua. You say, no, go for treatment and make dua. If you've got like bronchitis, people don't say, no, stay at home and just make dua on it and you'll get sorted. There are some people who say that, but generally that's not helpful. You say, look, go get the treatment and make dua. So just to say make dua, like the cancer will go away, I can't support that position. I might get attacked by some people, but no, because I find the same people who just say make dua, if they're sick, badly sick, they go to the doctor. Right? And of course, nothing can happen without Allah's will, but you get the treatment and you make dua. And with both combined, inshallah, you'll get better. So I just want to make that point. That's the stigma, I think. But that doesn't exist anymore. It's open. People talk openly about mental illness now. And you see, mental illness used to only think psychosis.
Yeah.
So mental illness, like my father took me, those days to try and like put me off. That mental illness is somebody who's hallucinating, who is hearing voices, who can see things crawling. That's one very small aspect of mental illness. That's one condition. There are many conditions: anxiety, depression, phobias, ADHD, OCD, any children's disorders, separation anxiety. But like movies also will focus on the spectacular thing to make it look like everybody is this. Or multiple personality disorder. I maybe saw one in my old life, but apparently in America, everyone has it. But it's for the movies. So I want to say to the people listening is that there's no more stigma attached. It's white people have always gone for tennis lessons, ballet, and therapy. Right? It's really part of their lifestyle. And not that we must be like that, but we need to make it part of that. It's just part of something that you have to go get sorted out. If you have a condition, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Muslim psychologists now. Not like my days. They're everywhere. Muslim psychologists are really everywhere these days.
It's also that if you look after your mental health, you become a better person for yourself. And a better person for those around you and for generations above. Because I feel like a lot of times we hold on to stigmas and those, like the traumas, and then we give it to the kids. I'll say
that is true. I mean, there's a whole thing called epigenetics, which talks about the intergenerational transfer of trauma. Okay, that it's transferred within the genes. But there's some research done on BWRT that it can stop that process. That the trauma is not transferred. So obviously, I'm going to say to people, look for a BWRT therapist. Doesn't mean the other therapists can't help you, but this is what I support, and I only do that. So I only do now only the BWRT. I can't do other therapies anymore. I don't find them as fast or as helpful. So, but having said that, there are many other therapies. People must do their research. The internet is there. If I had the internet, those days my dad wouldn't have been so skeptical.
Would have helped a lot.
Would have helped him a lot. But so do the research, check it out. And again, if you want a Muslim psychologist, sometimes people don't want a Muslim psychologist because they think, no, Muslims,
they're going to judge me.
Right. Well, and also, they're going to tell everyone. Let me just tell people. Muslim psychologists follow the same ethics as everyone. The confidentiality is 100% guaranteed. And if any psychologist breaks that, you can report them and they will lose their license. So confidentiality is the hallmark of this job. People can tell you anything. If you're a Muslim, you're not going to judge the person. That's not part of your training. Okay, so some people say to me, I want a psychologist, but I don't want a Muslim. Now I say, can I just ask why? No, because they're going to judge me. I say, they're not going to judge you. Just their religion doesn't make them a different. There's still the same skills and the same ethics. And I say, in fact, a Muslim psychologist will probably understand your condition a little bit better. They're having marital issues. See a Muslim psychologist because they understand the culture. They understand how the families get involved. The context of they understand the what's going to happen now. Okay, the steps involved in families, and not everybody understands that. So don't be afraid of the Muslim psychologist. There's 100% confidentiality. Nobody breaks confidentiality because really the consequences are very severe. Even all receptionists are trained as well. If a patient walks in and if you recognize them or if you know them, that's it. You don't say a word. Celebrities walk in to our practices, for example, like the staff don't rush up and say, can I have a selfie with you? They don't do that. They're well trained to act like they don't know the person.
And the person is a person.
If the person comes and says, hello, I'm so-and-so, you might know me from TV, that's different. If somebody walks in, sits quietly, they don't, even though you recognize them, you don't say, oh, hello, I saw you on TV last night. That doesn't happen. Uh, these days, practices are professional. Everybody runs professional practices. The staff are well trained. I'm sure there are things that go wrong now and again with maybe new people starting out who haven't learned the ropes yet. But like psychologists also like attend private practice courses on how to run, the ethics involved, what you have to do. So I want to completely reassure people that if you go to a Muslim psychologist, it will be okay. You won't get judged, and they won't go home and tell their family, I saw it today. That's not going to happen. I mean, that makes a mockery of the profession, and nobody would take that risk.
Shukran.
Pleasure.
Shukran so much for your time and your wise words and your direction as well. We appreciate you so much for.
It's a complete joy to be spoken for. My God,
but again, it was a good talk and I've learned a lot. Shukran so much.
Pleasure.
Shukran, everybody, for listening. I'm Yaaseen Barnes and this is Dr. Rafiq Lockhat, clinical psychologist. Yeah, Nate, you have one word before we...
No, I've said enough.
All the words are said. Shukran so much. Assalamu alaikum. This is the Muslim Connecting Podcast.